You're recognized.
Thank you so much, Chairman Rush. Thanks to you and Ranking Member Upton for holding this important hearing and for allowing me to participate. I'd like to thank the witnesses for taking the time to testify. Energy reliability is key to ensuring safety and security of our energy supplies and our communities. In my home state of Texas, we saw just last year the real life impacts of supply disruption, the potential collapse of our grid during the coldest days of the year. And it really can't be overstated. Our fellow Texans, our fellow Americans froze to death in their homes. And I remain concerned looking at the minimal action we've seen from state legislators and our governor that Texas is not truly prepared for the next storm. And that's why this bill is a good starting point for a discussion on how to improve energy reliability. I think there's some improvements that can still be made, and I look forward to discussing those issues with our panelists today. And I have two issues I want to touch on in the time that I have. First, the need for developing new pipeline infrastructure. A significant energy reliability challenge is that permitting related obstacles in some localities have prevented the expansion of pipeline infrastructure where it is needed. To my understanding, the proposed organization that we're talking about in the draft, some kind of EPRO organization would forbid the new reliability regulator from setting standards for adequacy of pipeline infrastructure. For example, ISO New England, which operates the electric power grid in New England, states that the region is vulnerable to pipeline interruptions because there has been tremendous growth in natural gas-fired generating capacity, but the natural gas pipelines that deliver low-cost shale gas into the region have not been expanded at a commensurate pace. And in the last few weeks, New England has had to resort to using fuel oil to meet their energy needs. Burning fuel oil is one of the least environmentally friendly sources of power generation. In 2020, 1% of power generation nationwide was from fuel oil. And in the last month, as much as 24% of New England's grid relied on fuel oil as a power source. So I want to ask both of our witnesses to quickly answer whether you agree with ISO New England that more pipeline capacity is needed to promote reliability in certain regions that currently have constraints. And also, if you could say whether you feel that a potential natural gas and pipeline reliability regulatory body, as discussed in this legislative draft, should include authority to look at pipeline capacity issues when considering overall reliability. And then I have a second issue I want to touch on as well. So if you could answer those questions, I would appreciate it.
So, Ms. Fletcher, if I could respond first, this is Rich Glick. So with regard to New England, I think the issue isn't whether they need new gas pipeline capacity. They need new capacity to get additional energy, whether it be through transmission lines or natural gas pipelines or building more generation in the region. The reason, and FERC actually has authority to site natural gas pipelines, interstate natural gas pipelines around the country. And one of the things we have to do is find out whether we have to determine whether the project is needed or not before issuing a certificate to authorize the pipeline. And in New England, the issue hasn't been necessarily government stopping or not permitting pipelines. The issue is pure economics. Natural gas pipeline developers don't want to build those pipelines unless the electric generator customers agree to take firm capacity, agree to pay them throughout the year for the pipeline capacity. But in fact, they only need the gas maybe 10 days out of the year when it's really cold. And so there's been a kind of the two ships passing in the night situation, really, with regard to electric generators and natural gas pipelines, which is why natural gas pipeline capacity hasn't been built in New England. With regard to the provision in 6084, it's very similar to provision that was in the electricity reliability language that was enacted in 2005, essentially forbidding NERC to order electric utility companies from building electric transmission capacity. And so I think there's an issue about usurping the state's jurisdiction to tell the utilities to build pipelines or build local distribution facilities. So it's really more of a jurisdictional issue as to who should have that responsibility to build pipeline capacity when it is needed.
In the interest of time, let me just agree with the chairman, and certainly New England is very complicated, but we need to work with our state, local utility, other colleagues to try to bring some fixes there, because it's just not right for the consumers who face those kind of prices and challenges.
Well, thank you for that quick answer. The 5 minutes does go quickly, so I will submit my second question for the record. But what I would like to know from you is whether a proposed reliability regulator should include a focus on issues at the wellhead like we saw in Texas during Winter Storm Uri. I will submit that question for the record. And Mr. Chairman, with that question, I have cited an article from Texas Monthly that Ms. Castor referenced earlier in the hearing. I would love to seek unanimous consent to enter the Texas Monthly article into the record for this hearing. So I thank you again for letting me participate, and I yield back.
Without objection, so ordered.